Indie Mogul.
Friday 101 is about to begin. If you're looking for a particular segment, click one of the topics listed below.
This week, instead of being on my nicer set, which is actually my producer Jason's office, I get to sit in front of this cluttered mess, aka my editing station, as I prepare to cut up your movies and show you a few easy methods to improve your editing skills. This week's Friday 101 is our very first chopping block. Now, I won't be doing this too often, but a lot of the problems with the movies I'm about to go over apply to many of the viewer submissions I've received for this segment and also for MovieQuest over the past year. Editing is my favorite part of the filmmaking process. This is where you can really make your movie your own. Some people plan out each cut well in advance, and some will shoot loads of coverage and figure out how to piece it together on the timeline. That's my method. But there's a few things I've picked up on in the past year that are common mistakes made by less experienced editors, so let's go over a few of the major ones. One requirement for this episode is something you may not all have: a video editor that does multiple video tracks. I use Premiere Pro, so that's not an issue for me, but for those starting out or with limited budgets, using cheaper or free software, that can be a problem as many of those will only give you one timeline to work with. I did some digging and found a free program that is currently in beta, launches officially on Monday. It's the resurgence of an old editing and effects program called Lightworks. It has a very different interface than anything I've used before, but it does do multiple video tracks, and that's the important part, especially for our first editing tip, dialogue overlap. To demonstrate, the first video we're taking a look at is from the channel DougTheGoat, with a video called Cat Vase.
Would I notice if one of my favourite possessions, something that brings me joy every single time I look at it, was replaced by a cat?
Now, this one is actually pretty funny. The dialogue is well written, the actors do a great job, but one thing this video doesn't have is dialogue overlap. It doesn't affect the overall quality of this video as much as it does some others, but it works well as an example here. Watch the way the cuts always come at the end of each line.
Would I notice if my vase was replaced by an actual cat?
Simple yes or no?
Well, I guess yes. Yes, I would notice that.
Okay, thank you. Right there in the end.
Again, this one is a bit more slight than most, but there's a weird stilted quality to most of the cuts. Watch how this scene flows with some very minor adjustments.
Would I notice if my vase was replaced by an actual cat?
Simple yes or no?
Well, I guess yes. Yes, I would notice that.
Okay, thank you. Right there in the end.
Whenever I'm cutting dialogue, I never ever put the second clip directly after the first clip, and this is where multiple video and audio tracks come in. Overlapping the dialogue, either by cutting to the second clip after the second person starts talking,
was replaced by an actual cat.
Simple yes or no?
Or cutting to the second person as the first person is just finishing talking.
Simple yes or no?
Well, I guess yes. Yes, I would notice that.
Makes videos feel like the action on screen is dictating the editing, as opposed to the editing dictating the action. To put it more simply, imagine watching two people talking and you're sitting between them. Looking back and forth from one person to the next, imagine at what point in the conversation you would look away to the other person. Do you anticipate they are about to respond and are looking for their reaction? If so, you'll look at them before the other person finishes.
Ab, I've got something important to tell you. Something enormous. It's going to change your life dramatically, forever.
What is it?
Are you paying close attention to the person talking when suddenly the other person starts to respond? If so, it's going to take a split second or two for you to look over at them.
It all started a few years ago. Events were set in motion that led us to this very moment. This very important moment that one day you will look back on as the day you realized your entire life was a lie. This moment...
Too long, won't listen, gotta go chat, thanks for nothing.
That's the big one. It's one of my major pet peeves when watching videos online. And I would do this technique for every cut. A lot of people first learn this method and will use it once or twice in a video and think they've got it figured out. But when you're working with multiple tracks, it should always be done this way. You may still find that once in a blue moon, a regular cut at the end of a line works, but that's more the exception than the rule. The next two tips are closely related but slightly different in what problems they addressed. First up is called cutting the fat. The fat in this case being pointless footage that drags down a video's pace. Long pauses of nothing in between the things that are actually happening. The other tip, as I learned it in film school, is called killing your babies. Sounds dramatic, right? It's a term for when you, as a filmmaker, have a scene that you really love. It's going to be the one the movie is remembered for. Or in comedies, you think this scene is hysterical. and then you put it in the timeline and something seems off. It could be anything. Maybe the mood didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. Maybe an actor didn't do something quite like you wanted and you're only now noticing. Maybe it's as great a scene as you hoped, but in the overall scheme of things, it totally kills the energy or pace that you've built up before the scene. And now you can keep it at the expense of your movie's quality, or you can kill your baby. In this case, the scene you cared very much about, and your movie is better off for it. For these two topics, let's look at one video in particular. This one is called You're Doing It Wrong, a video meant to show one thing being done wrong after another. First, cutting the fat. This video works best with quick cutting, but it rarely does things at a good pace, often taking way too long to get the joke out, or packing the good parts of the joke with fat. Look at the first one here, happiness. Unneeded setup shot. We don't need an establishing shot for this. After the shot of him looking unhappy, there is this shot of him awkwardly walking away. And to be fair, it's a pretty funny way to walk, but it's not needed. If you want to show happiness being done wrong, the face is plenty. I'd cut it to one shot and put it in the middle of the rotation. Little things make a big difference that way. Jumping is the next topic, and the setup shot of the kid is 3 seconds of silent standing, which is a long time to have nothing happen in an establishing shot. Cut that to 1 second or less, or even completely, and then do the feet. I'd even speed up that shot a bit for my version. Falcon punch. Too long. Move his dialogue over and cut to the close-up later. Then, after the punch, no need for the 5 silent seconds that follow. The putting on shoes thing doesn't need to be a minute long, and the maracas thing is not as funny as they may think it is. Sorry, so cut. And the water polo scene is a good example of cutting out an entire scene because it doesn't work. Gone. For these two videos mentioned today, I've included links to the original versions alongside links to my re-edited versions in a playlist over on the left. I used only the video that was on YouTube and did what I could to improve them. But again, these are all just suggestions. In the end, no one gets final say on your video but you. That's important to remember. On YouTube, you're your own final say. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's it for this week. Check out the playlist and be sure to let those who bravely volunteered their videos to be critiqued know what you think about their work. Hell, maybe you'll think their cut is better than mine, in which case, great. Let them know that. And if you have any quick questions you'd like to ask, email them to friday101@gmail.com. Next week, I'll be doing short answers, going through as many quick questions as I can. So get them into me. I'll see you next Friday right here on Indie Mogul. Have a good week.
Hey Mogulers, just a quick reminder that I'm doing 2 live broadcasts of Indie News this Monday. It'll be fun to try the show live, and I'm looking forward to hearing your live feedback and questions. So please join me this Monday, May 28th, for one or both shows. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And those broadcasts will be right here on our channel, youtube.com/IndieMogul. Thanks, guys.